Today we will be discussing Learning Unit 17-2. Learning Objective 17-2, Units of Production Method. Explain how use affects the units of production method. Then we will also prepare a depreciation schedule similar to the one that we prepared in the straight line method. Units of production method. Unlike in the straight line depreciation method, in the units of production method, the passage of time is not used to determine the asset's depreciation amount. Instead, the company determines the asset's depreciation according to how much the company uses the asset. This could be miles driven, tons hauled, or units that a machine produces. The formula for calculating depreciation expense per unit is cost minus residual value divided by total estimated units produced. The first step is to calculate this depreciation expense per unit. You will notice that the top of the formula is the same as the straight line method. However, this time on the bottom of the formula, we're using total estimated units produced instead of years. Once you have your depreciation expense per unit, multiply it times actual units produced to determine the depreciation amount. For example, Ajax Company that we discussed in Learning Unit 17-1 buys equipment for $2,500, and the company estimates how many units the equipment can produce. Let's assume the equipment has a useful life of 4,000 units. After 5 years, the residual value is $500. Calculate depreciation expense and complete a depreciation schedule using the units of production method. So our first step is to calculate depreciation expense per unit. Our equipment cost is $2,500 and our residual value is $500. That gives us $2,000 on the top. Divided by 4,000 estimated units tells us that our depreciation expense per unit will be 50 cents. Notice, residual value is listed after 5 years. We may depreciate it more than 5 years, but we cannot go below residual value. And we'll discuss that in an example in a few minutes. So here's your depreciation schedule. Similar format as straight line. However, you have this new column for units produced. So in year 1, our cost is $2,500. We produced 300, so our depreciation expense is $150. The 300 we actually produced times the 50-cent depreciation per unit we calculated on the previous slide. Accumulated depreciation at the end of the first year is equal to depreciation expense because we have not taken any other depreciation. Therefore, our book value is equal to our cost minus accumulated depreciation of $23.50. Year 2, cost of the equipment stays the same. Our units produced is now 400, so our depreciation expense is 200. 400 units actually produced times 50 cents gives us the $200. Accumulated depreciation at the end of the second year is equal to accumulated depreciation at the end of the first year plus the current year's depreciation expense gives us $350. Book value at the end of the year is the $2,500 cost less our accumulated depreciation gives us $2,150. Years 3 through 4 are shown, and you follow the same process. Units produced times your depreciation per unit, calculate a new accumulated depreciation, and a new book value. At the end of year 4, we'll see our book value is $850. Year 5, we produced 700 units. Therefore, our depreciation expense is $350. Accumulated depreciation from the prior year plus depreciation expense for this year gives us accumulated depreciation at the end of the year of 2000. 2,500 less 2,000 gives us a book value of $500, which is what our residual value is. Therefore, we have not depreciated below residual value. Here's another example. Shearer's Foods, part of the $374 billion global snack food industry, employs 3,300 people in Brewster, Ohio. If Shears purchased a packaging unit for $185,000 with a life expectancy of 695 units and a residual value of $46,000, what is the depreciation expense for year one if 75,000 units were produced? That sounds like a lot of information and a lot of numbers, so let's take a minute and evaluate the problem. That first sentence is completely irrelevant to what we were trying to do. The value of the snack food industry and the number of employees that the company has nothing to do with depreciation. So ignore that first sentence. Now, we need to calculate our depreciation per unit. So we take our cost of $185,000 less our residual value of 46 divided by our life expectancy to get a 20-cent depreciation per unit rate. So in the first year, if we produce 75,000 units and we want to depreciate at 20 cents a unit, our depreciation expense is there for $15,000 in the first year. Let's take a look at one more example. Prepare a depreciation schedule using the units of production method from the following facts. The machine cost was $20,000. The residual value is $4,000 and is expected to produce 16,000 units over its expected life. So, step 1, determine the depreciation per unit. Cost of $20,000 minus residual value of $4,000 divided by units. We're going to depreciate at a rate of $1 per unit. So let's take a look at our depreciation schedule. In the first year, the machine cost, as we said, was $20,000. We actually produced 2,000 units. So our depreciation expense for the year is $2,000. 2,000 units times that dollar rate we calculated on the previous slide. Accumulated depreciation at the end of the year is $2,000. In the first year, remember, accumulated depreciation is equal to depreciation expense. So our book value at the end of the year is $18,000. We'll continue this on for the rest of the years. In year 2, we produced 8,000. In year 3, 3,000. In year 4, 1,800. And in year 5, we produced 1,600 units. How much is the depreciation expense we want to take in year 5? Well, before you say $1,600, let's take a look at something. In year 4, our book value at the end of the year is $5,200. What was our residual value? Right, our residual value was $4,000. Remember, you cannot depreciate past residual value. Therefore, if we depreciated all 1,600 units, our accumulated depreciation would make our book value below $4,000. In this instance, we are only able to depreciate 1,200 units since we cannot go below the residual value of $4,000. Therefore, depreciation expense will be $1,200. Accumulated depreciation will be $16,000, and our book value equals $4,000. Yes, we produce more than 1,200 units, but we can only depreciate to book value.